Don't raise that card. Celine Ward's voice barely carried across the auction hall. Rainwater still clung to the ends of her long blue hair, and the woman who once commanded an entire corporation was standing beside a row of empty chairs. On the stage behind her, a screen displayed the words everyone in Harborside had been waiting to see. Ward Dynamics. Bankruptcy auction. Final lot. 14 months earlier, Celine had fired me in front of the same company's board. Now she was staring at the bidder card in my hand as if one small movement could erase the last piece of her family's name. "Nolan, please," she said. "If you buy the factory, you buy the debt, the lawsuits, and every enemy Marcus left behind. He built this auction to bury whoever wins." Before I could answer, the doors opened. Iris Vale walked in wearing a black suit and the calm expression that had made half the city afraid of her. Her pink hair was tied back with a silver pin, and an old copper bird rested in her palm. The reporters immediately surrounded her. Only that morning, the business channels had named Iris the youngest candidate for CEO of the year. They expected her to save Ward Dynamics, break it apart, and add its patents to her investment empire. Instead, she stopped beside me and placed the copper bird on our table. "Celine is right about one thing," Iris said. "This auction is a trap." Across the aisle, a man representing Marcus Dane's shell company smiled. He thought we had finally understood, too late. Iris looked at me. "But traps only work when you walk through the door they prepared." The auctioneer lifted his hammer. "Final call for Lot 7. The Riverside Factory, all production lines, and the remaining operating rights of Ward Dynamics." Celine caught my sleeve. "Why would you risk everything for the company that threw you away?" I looked at the dark factory windows beyond the hall. Hundreds of workers were waiting outside in the rain. Some had once ignored me. Some had defended me. All of them were about to lose their livelihoods because 3 executives had treated people like replaceable parts. I raised the card. To understand why Iris smiled, why Celine started crying, and why the man across the aisle suddenly reached for his phone, you have to know what happened the day Ward Dynamics decided I was disposable. At the time, I was the lead safety engineer on Atlas, a rescue machine designed to carry people through burning buildings. Celine was the public face of the project. Marcus Dane controlled the money. Celine and I had met in engineering school. We built our first working robot from a broken printer, 2 bicycle motors, and a dining tray stolen from the cafeteria. 5 years later, we were engaged and building machines together. At least, that was what I believed. 3 hours before the Atlas launch, my diagnostics showed a sudden rise in battery temperature. The numbers were not slightly wrong, they were dangerous. I stopped the test line and ordered the technicians to open the battery housing. Marcus appeared before the first screw came loose. He was tall, polished, and always looked as if a camera had found him by accident. "Turn the line back on," he said. "We have government buyers in the auditorium." "Then they can wait," I replied. "The cooling controller is sending false readings." Marcus glanced at the technicians around us. "You signed off on that controller last week." I signed off on a different part number. For 1 second, something changed in his eyes. Then he smiled. "You have 20 minutes. I should have understood that smile. When I opened the housing, the original controller was gone. In its place was a cheaper unit made by a company I had never approved. The serial label looked new, but the screws around it were scratched. Someone had replaced it after inspection. I copied the logs onto my tablet and ran toward the auditorium. Celine was backstage, her blue hair shining beneath the launch lights while assistants adjusted her microphone. "We have to cancel," I told her. She looked past me toward the investors taking their seats. Her father had suffered a stroke 2 months earlier. Since then, every board member had been waiting for her to fail. "Tell me this can be fixed," she said. "It can, but not in 10 minutes. Marcus entered behind me. "The system passed every official inspection. Nolan is panicking because the board rejected his request for another testing budget." I turned on him. "You changed the controller. Do you have proof?" I held up my tablet. The screen went black. At first I thought the battery had died. Then every file in a diagnostic folder disappeared. Marcus watched my face with quiet interest. Celine's expression hardened. "Nolan, did you connect a personal device to the Atlas network? This is a company tablet. The security alert says someone used your credentials to alter the launch settings." Marcus handed her his phone. On the screen was a report carrying my employee number, my access code, and a transfer from Ward Dynamics to an account I had never seen. The story was perfectly simple. A resentful engineer had sabotaged his own project after losing a budget fight. Simple stories are dangerous when frightened people need an answer quickly. "Give me 1 hour," I said. "Open the battery housing and compare the serial number to purchasing records." Celine looked at the clock, then at the board members entering the front row. "Security would investigate after the launch. There may not be an after." She stepped closer and lowered her voice. "If I cancel now, the board removes me today. Trust me once." Trust is exactly why I'm asking you to stop. For a moment, I saw the woman who had built a cafeteria robot with me. Then Marcus whispered that the mayor had arrived, and Celine turned toward the stage. The launch began. Atlas walked into the auditorium carrying a rescue dummy. The crowd applauded. Celine explained how the machine could enter places too dangerous for firefighters. I watched the temperature climb on a technician's monitor. 40 degrees, 52, 68. I ran for the emergency cutoff. Marcus blocked my path and called security. Atlas lifted the dummy. Its right arm jerked. The machine spun toward the audience, struck the demonstration wall, and sent a steel support falling toward a young apprentice named Ben. I reached him first. I pushed Ben beneath the stage and took the edge of the support across my shoulder. Pain shot down my arm, but I kept moving until I reached the manual power cable. Atlas's battery casing began to smoke. I pulled the cable free with both hands. The machine stopped less than a meter from the front row. No one died. That should have been the only fact that mattered. Instead, the first video posted online showed me running toward Atlas seconds before it failed. By the time the fire alarm stopped, Marcus had already given reporters the security report with my name on it. The board assembled in the launch hall while smoke still hung above the stage. Celine stood at the head of the table. Her hands were trembling, but her voice was not. "Nolan Cross, Ward Dynamics is terminating your employment for reckless interference, theft of company data, and deliberate damage to the Atlas project." I stared at her. She had not opened the battery housing. "You know I didn't do this." Her eyes moved toward the cameras behind me. "I know the company cannot survive if I protect you without evidence." "Then you chose the company." Marcus leaned against the wall, almost smiling. Celine removed our engagement ring and set it beside my security badge. "Until this investigation is complete, there can't be any personal connection between us." That hurt more than my shoulder. I picked up the badge, but left the ring on the table. "The investigation is already complete," I said. "You decided who was guilty before you looked inside the machine." As security escorted me out, Celine called my name. I turned, foolishly expecting doubt, an apology, or at least one final question. She gave me none of those things. "You were important to this company," she said. "Don't confuse that with being irreplaceable." Outside, it had started raining. Ben followed me to the loading bay. He was 17, terrified, and still had dust in his hair. "You saved me," he said. "I told him the machine moved before you touched it, but Mr. Dane said I was confused. I wanted to tell him the truth would fix everything. I no longer believed that." On the floor near the loading dock, I found the burned shell of a temperature sensor. My hands needed something to do, so I bent the thin copper casing into a small bird. It was ugly. One wing was larger than the other. I gave it to Ben. "Keep this. The next time someone tells you a machine matters more than a person, remember which one can be rebuilt." Ben closed his hand around it. I walked away without looking back. 10 minutes later, a black car stopped beside me. The rear window lowered, revealing a woman with bright pink hair and a face I recognized from business magazines. Iris Vale had inherited a minor division of Vale Capital and turned it into the most feared recovery fund in the country. People called her the Rose Knife. If Iris invested in your company, she either saved it or cut away everything she considered weak. "Get in," she said. "I'm not looking for another execution." "Good. I'm looking for an engineer." I kept walking. Her car moved beside me at exactly the same speed. "The support beam bruised your left shoulder," she continued. "The Atlas controller was replaced after inspection, and your tablet was wiped through an administrator account. You were framed badly. They were simply too frightened to notice." I stopped. "How do you know about the controller?" "I was in the front row." "That explains nothing." For the first time, Iris smiled. "Then get in and ask better questions." Her offer was not what I expected. Vale Capital owned an abandoned appliance factory on the east side of Harborside. Heiress wanted to turn it into a repair and emergency technology company. The board considered the property worthless and had given her 90 days to prove otherwise. "You want me to build a company in 3 months?" I asked. "No, I want you to build a reason not to close one." She placed a contract between us. The salary was lower than what I had earned at Ward Dynamics. The authority was much higher. I would control product safety, hiring standards, and technical decisions. One clause was printed in bold. Every 10 permanent jobs saved would transfer 1 additional share into an employee trust. Your lawyers approved this? My lawyers described it as emotional vandalism. And you kept it? That is why I pay them. They explain which decisions will annoy my uncle. I read the contract again. Why me? Heiress looked out at the rain. Because when the machine failed, every executive protected the launch. You protected the apprentice. That answer was worth more than the salary. I signed. The abandoned factory was worse than promised. Half the windows were broken. Rain fell through a hole in the roof. The main assembly line had not moved in 6 years, and a family of pigeons had claimed the executive office. 23 former workers waited near the entrance. Heiress had invited them without telling me. "This is Nolan Cross," she announced. "He has 90 days to make this place useful." An older mechanic raised his hand. "And if he fails?" Heiress's public expression became perfectly cold. "Then I fail first." That silenced everyone. Once she left, the mechanic leaned toward me. "Does she always talk like a final boss?" "I met her 40 minutes ago." "Then we're all making excellent decisions." His name was Gus. By lunch, he had shown me every broken motor in the building and insulted each one personally. The factory's first opportunity arrived that same afternoon. A chain of rural clinics had 30 refrigerated medicine cabinets with failed control boards. The original manufacturer wanted 6 weeks to replace them. We had 48 hours before the medicine spoiled. The obvious solution was to order new boards. We had neither the money nor the time. I asked the workers what the old assembly line could still produce. One woman said metal cases. Another said cable harnesses. Gus pointed toward a forgotten testing station that could reprogram industrial controllers from the previous decade. By midnight, we had a plan. We did not build 30 new boards. We built one universal adapter that allowed the clinics to use common controllers already available in local stores. Heiress returned at 2 in the morning, carrying coffee and a stack of legal forms. "The board says we cannot ship an untested medical product," she said. "They're right." She paused. "You are supposed to argue with me. I'm supposed to keep medicine cold." We turned one corner of the factory into a heat chamber and ran the adapter through every failure we could create. When it finally passed, Heiress signed the emergency warranty herself. "If this fails," I told her, "your board will use it to remove you. If we do nothing, the medicine fails first." That was the moment I stopped seeing Heiress Vale as an investor who collected broken companies. She was someone who understood the order of things. The adapters worked, the clinics saved their medicine, and our factory earned its first payment. It was not enough to repair the roof, but it was enough to hire all 23 workers for another month. Heiress handed me the first employee trust certificate in front of them. Gus looked at the single share and laughed. "We own almost enough of the company to buy 1 chair." Heiress pointed toward the ruined executive office. "Take any chair you can defend from the pigeons." The factory laughed with her. It was the first time I saw her public mask slip. Over the next 6 weeks, we repaired pumps, delivery robots, emergency generators, and anything else large companies considered too old to deserve attention. We named the new company Ember Works because Gus said every machine had one useful spark left if you knew where to look. Heiress hated the name. Then she registered it before anyone could change it. At Ward Dynamics, the Atlas failure should have forced a safety review. Marcus used it to gain more control instead. He convinced the board that Celine needed an experienced financial hand beside her. He became acting chief operating officer, moved purchasing under his office, and announced a cheaper battery partnership that increased the company's projected profits overnight. Celine appeared on television with her blue hair tied neatly over one shoulder. She called the Atlas incident the result of a single dishonest employee. She did not say my name. She did not have to. I turned off the interview and returned to our latest project. The city needed compact drones that could carry radios and medicine after floods. Ward Dynamics had proposed a beautiful machine costing more than a small house. We had a warehouse full of discarded delivery drones. Our design used 4 different models, one shared control system, and a folding frame Gus built from old appliance hinges. It was not beautiful. Ben called it a flying toolbox. He had quit Ward Dynamics 2 days after my firing and joined us as an apprentice. On his first morning, he placed the copper bird on my desk. "I think this belongs here," he said. Iris saw it during her next visit. She picked it up carefully. "Who made this?" "Nolan did," Ben answered before I could stop him. "Right after he saved my life." Iris looked at the crooked wings for a long moment. "It needs a name." Gus suggested Turkey. I suggested we return to work. Iris named our drone Skylark. 2 days before the city demonstration, Ward Dynamics sent us a legal notice claiming Skylark used stolen Atlas technology. Marcus had chosen his timing well. If we missed the demonstration, we lost the contract. If we showed the drone, he would ask a judge to seize it as evidence. Celine came to the factory with the legal team. The workers went quiet when she entered. Her blue hair and white coat looked almost unreal against the rusted walls. For one dangerous second, I remembered how easily she used to belong beside me. Then she placed the order on my workbench. "Hand over the prototype," she said. "If the design is independent, the court will return it. After the city awards the contract to you. You know how this works." "I know how Marcus works." Her jaw tightened. "This came from our legal department, which reports to Marcus." I opened Skylark's casing. Celine watched as I removed the control board, the motors, and the folding arms one by one. Each part carried a purchase receipt, an open license, or a worker's dated design stamp. Atlas used a central balance system, I explained. Skylark lets each motor correct itself. Different cause, different code, different machine. One lawyer stopped taking notes. Celine touched a stamped metal arm. The initials belonged to a technician Ward Dynamics had laid off the previous winter. "You built this with former Ward employees." "I built it with people you decided were replaceable." The words hit her. I could see it. Before she answered, Marcus called her. His voice was loud enough for me to hear through the phone. "Do not leave without the drone." Celine looked at the workers surrounding us. Then she looked at me. "The court order covers technology derived from Atlas," she said to her lawyers. "Mr. Cross has shown that this machine is not derived from Atlas. We are leaving." It was a small decision, and far too late. Still, it was the first time she had chosen evidence while Marcus was speaking. After they left, Iris emerged from the old storage room. "Were you hiding?" I asked. "Observing. From behind a broken refrigerator?" It had an excellent view. She had been ready to challenge the order through Vale Capital. I asked why she stayed silent. "Because you did not need me to rescue you," she said. "You needed room to prove your work." Then she noticed I was still watching the door. "Do you want her back?" The question was quiet, almost careless, and completely unlike her. "No." Iris nodded too quickly. "Good. Her lawyers are expensive." She walked away before I could see her expression, but the tips of her ears were bright red beneath her pink hair. Skylark won the city demonstration. Ward Dynamics sent one perfect drone across the flooded test field. We sent 5 mismatched ones. When the city disabled 2 at random, the remaining 3 divided the route and completed every delivery. The crowd cheered when our ugliest drone dropped a medical pack directly into the mayor's hands. Iris did not cheer. She simply took my hand beneath the railing and held it for 3 seconds. Then the cameras turned toward us, and she let go. Those 3 seconds changed something. The city contract kept Ember Works alive for 6 months. It also made us a threat. Marcus began calling our suppliers. Companies that had happily sold us motors on Monday suddenly claimed they had no inventory on Tuesday. Our bank delayed a credit line without explanation. The landlord discovered a forgotten inspection issue and threatened to close the factory. Each attack came from a different direction, but the rhythm was the same. Iris recognized it before I did. "Someone is spending a great deal of money to make us look unlucky," she said. Marcus does not have this much money." That was the first sign the real problem extended beyond Ward Dynamics. Iris moved her office into the factory. Publicly, she said it would improve supervision. Privately, her own board had started limiting what she could access at Vale Capital. She slept on the office couch twice that week. On the third night, I found her sitting on the loading dock with the copper bird in her hand. "You stole that from my desk," I said. "I relocated it for executive review. And? The left wing is structurally absurd." I sat beside her. "You could go home. So could you." Neither of us moved. After a while, she told me about Damon Vale, her uncle and the chairman of Vale Capital. When Iris was 16, Damon had sold the small factory her mother managed. He called the workers inefficient and the town obsolete. Iris never forgot watching families carry their belongings through the gate. "I joined Vale Capital to make sure I was never powerless in front of a closing factory again," she said. "Is that why you hired me?" "Partly." "What is the other part?" She rotated the copper bird between her fingers. "At the Atlas launch, you were injured. Everyone around you was filming. You still asked whether Ben was safe before you looked at your own shoulder." Her voice softened. "I wanted to know if that kind of person was real." "And your conclusion?" "You are very annoying." I laughed. Iris looked genuinely surprised, as if she had never expected to be the reason. Then she smiled, and for a few seconds, the factory no longer felt abandoned. The next morning, Celine called me for the first time since the legal order. She asked to meet without lawyers. I almost refused. Then she said she had found the purchase record for the controller that destroyed Atlas. We met in the old university workshop where we had built our first robot. The room smelled like dust and solder. Celine placed a folder on the same scarred table we once used as students. "The controller was purchased through Dane's supply," she said. "The owner is Marcus's cousin. You knew he controlled purchasing. I didn't know he was replacing certified parts. You did not look." She accepted that without defending herself. "I was afraid the board would remove me," she said. "Marcus made every decision feel like a choice between the company and one person. I kept choosing the company. A company is people, Celine." Her eyes filled with tears, but she did not let them fall.
"I know that now." She slid another paper toward me. It was a reinstatement offer, a public apology, and a proposal to restore my shares. "Come back," she said. "Help me remove Marcus. We can rebuild what we had." Once, that offer would have healed every wound I carried. Now it only showed me how far I had moved. "You still think the answer is to put me back where you left me?" "I'm trying to make it right." "Then release the safety records. Compensate the technicians Marcus fired. Tell the board what you found." "If I do that now, Ward Dynamics may collapse." "Then you are still choosing the company you imagine over the people standing inside it." I pushed the offer back. Celine glanced at my hand. A thin streak of pink paint crossed my thumb from helping Iris mark new safety lanes in the factory. "Is it because of her?" Iris did not ask me to come back. She asked what I wanted to build. Celine finally let one tear fall. "Do you love her?" I thought about 3 seconds beneath a railing, cold coffee at 2 in the morning, and a powerful woman hiding behind a broken refrigerator because she trusted me to defend my own work. I'm starting to. Outside the workshop, I found Iris waiting beside her car. "You followed me?" "I happened to be parked outside your secret meeting." "For 40 minutes? Harborside parking is terrible." I opened the passenger door. She did not move. "Did you accept?" she asked. "No." The tension left her shoulders. "Good. Their lawyers remain expensive." This time, I touched a strand of pink hair that the wind had blown across her face. "Iris, you can stop using the lawyers as an excuse." She looked at me with nowhere to hide. I leaned forward and kissed her. It was brief, uncertain, and warmer than anything I expected. When I stepped back, Iris kept her eyes closed for 2 extra seconds. Then she opened them and said, "That was an irresponsible workplace decision. Should I apologize?" "Absolutely not." For the first time in months, I believed the future might contain something other than another fight. That belief lasted until midnight. Ben had been reviewing temperature data from the city's emergency drones when he found a repeating error. The numbers rose in the same strange pattern I had seen before the Atlas failure. Our Skylarks were stable. The faulty data came from new Ward Dynamics batteries installed in city ambulances, flood pumps, and backup generators. Thousands of units were already in service. I compared the controller signatures. They matched Dane's supply. This was no longer about proving who had sabotaged one launch. A single heat wave or storm could turn emergency equipment across Harborside into a chain of fires. I called Celine. She did not answer.
I called the city safety office. They promised to review the data within 10 business days. The weather report showed a coastal storm arriving in 4.
Iris opened every database she could access through Vale Capital. 2 hours later, she found the reason Marcus was moving so quickly. Vale Capital had financed Dane's supply. The signature on the deal belonged to Damon Vale. Iris stared at her uncle's name, then at the copper bird on the desk. "Marcus is hollowing out Ward Dynamics," she said. "When the failures become public, the company collapses. Damon buys the patents through a shell company, closes the factory, and moves production overseas. And Ember works? Damon expected me to fail here. Now he will either absorb us or destroy us before the auction." The main question had changed. We were no longer trying to prove a small factory deserved to exist. We were trying to stop two powerful men from manufacturing a disaster, buying the wreckage, and calling it business. Iris called an emergency meeting of the Vale Capital board the next morning. I went with her, carrying the battery reports and 3 burned controllers. The boardroom occupied the top floor of a glass tower, where even the silence felt expensive. Damon Vale sat at the head of the table. He had Iris's pale eyes, but none of her warmth. He read the first page and pushed it back. "These are preliminary findings from a company in which you have a personal interest." "The findings are real," Iris said. "Your engineer is under investigation for sabotaging Ward Dynamics. That accusation came from the man you financed." Damon looked at me as if I were a stain on the carpet. "Mr. Cross, do you understand what happens if we recall every unit based on your theory? Hospitals lose power. The city panics. Ward Dynamics fails immediately. If we do not recall them, the units may fail when the city needs them. May fail." I placed one controller in front of him. Its casing was melted around the edges. "This one came from an ambulance that overheated on a clear day. The storm will increase demand across the entire network." Damon turned to Iris. "End this project. Transfer Ember Works to our industrial division, and we can manage the problem quietly." Iris did not ask what would happen to the workers. We both knew. "No," she said. The directors shifted in their seats. Damon folded his hands. "Then I move to suspend Iris Vale from all executive authority, pending an investigation into undisclosed personal conflicts." The vote had been arranged before we entered. 7 hands rose. Iris lost access to her accounts, her office, and every company car before we reached the elevator. She stood in the mirrored lobby with one cardboard box in her arms. The security guards were too embarrassed to meet her eyes. "I can appeal," she said. "It may take a month. The storm arrives in 3 days." "I know." She looked down at the box. It contained 2 files, 1 coffee mug, and the copper bird. "I'm sorry," she said. "I promised the factory 90 days. I thought my position could protect it." I took the box from her. "Your position opened the door. You are the reason people stayed. Vale Capital owns the building, the machines, and our bank debt. They do not own the people." When we returned to Ember Works, the entire staff was waiting. Gus had already received the closure notice. Vale Capital demanded repayment within 48 hours. If we failed, the factory would be sealed. Iris walked onto the shop floor without her usual suit jacket. For once, she had no prepared answer. "I lost the vote," she said. "You are free to leave before the locks go on the doors. I will make sure everyone receives this week's wages from my personal account." No one moved. Then Ben placed a small metal box on the workbench. Inside was the money he had saved for technical school. "That buys us maybe 4 minutes," he said. "But I want my 4 minutes." Gus added his truck title. The clinic manager who received our first adapters called during the meeting. She offered to prepay for a year of maintenance. Then the flood department prepaid part of the Skylark contract. By evening, customers, workers, and 3 local suppliers had created enough breathing room to challenge the closure. It was not a fortune. It was something more dangerous to Damon Vale. It was proof that people trusted us without his permission. We reorganized Ember Works around the employee trust. Iris sold her remaining private shares in 2 luxury funds and bought our debt before Vale Capital could transfer it. The Rose Knife lost her tower office and became the only CEO in Harborside whose desk was an upside-down shipping crate. She complained about the chair for 6 hours. Then she used pink tape to mark her name on it. That night,
We worked on an emergency conversion kit for the city's faulty batteries. Iris tied her pink hair up with a cable strap and learned to solder badly. Her first connection fell apart in my hand. "The equipment is defective," she said. "You are holding the iron backward." Then the equipment failed to guide me. I stepped behind her and moved her hand into the correct position. She became very still. "Nolan," she said quietly, "if we survive this, I would like you to do that again when there are no batteries nearby." "That can be arranged." For 1 minute, the coming storm felt far away. Then every light in the factory went out. Vale Capital had canceled our power contract. Gus rolled an old generator onto the floor. "Good thing we repair things rich people call obsolete." The lights returned 1 row at a time. Celine arrived shortly before dawn. She looked exhausted. Her blue hair was loose, and there was grease on the sleeve of her coat. She placed a portable drive on my bench. "Marcus locked me out of the main system," she said. "I copied what I could before security removed me." The files showed payments from Dane Supply to shell companies controlled by Marcus. They also showed a private bid agreement with Damon Vale. It was enough to prove corruption, but not enough to force an immediate citywide recall. "There is a master log in the Riverside factory," Celine said. "It records every controller alarm before Marcus's team deletes it from the public system. Can you access it?" "Not remotely. Marcus changed the keys." I looked at the storm map. The first heavy rain would reach Riverside that evening. Celine followed my eyes. "I'll get the log. Marcus will know you entered. I signed the contracts he put in front of me. I defended him when you warned me. This is my responsibility." Iris stepped between us. "Responsibility does not require walking into a secured building alone." Celine gave her a tired smile. "You really do protect him from everything." "Not everything," Iris replied. "Only avoidable stupidity." For the first time, the two women looked at each other without jealousy or anger. We made a plan. Celine would enter the Riverside factory using her remaining family credentials. Ben would guide her through the old maintenance network. Iris would send copies of every file to regulators and reporters the moment we had them. I would finish the conversion kits with the workers. It was a good plan for almost 20 minutes. Then Marcus announced an immediate field test of Ward Dynamics backup generators at the central hospital. He claimed the test would reassure the public before the storm. In reality, it would overload the faulty controllers and either erase our warning or create the disaster we feared. Celine called from inside Riverside. "The master log is gone," she said. Marcus moved it to a mobile command unit at the hospital. Thunder rolled over Harborside. The first rain struck the factory roof. We loaded every conversion kit into the Skylarks and drove toward the hospital. By the time we arrived, the storm had swallowed half the city. Traffic lights were failing. Water climbed over the river road, and emergency vehicles crowded the hospital entrance. Marcus stood inside a glass command trailer surrounded by cameras. He told reporters Ward Dynamics would keep the hospital powered no matter what happened. The performance lasted 4 minutes. One generator overheated, then another. The hospital lights flickered. Our battery monitor lit up with warnings from across the district. Ambulances, flood pumps, and emergency stations were beginning to fail at the same time. Marcus ordered his engineers to increase the cooling limits so the alarms would disappear. Celine heard him. She walked into the command trailer and took the microphone from his hand. "Ward Dynamics is ordering an immediate shutdown of every Dane controller," she announced. Marcus grabbed her arm. "You no longer have authority." "Then why are you afraid of my voice?" The cameras captured everything. He tried to cut the broadcast, but Ben had already linked our Skylarks to the trailer's wireless network. The master log began copying into the drones, one piece at a time. Marcus saw the transfer. He pulled the emergency disconnect. The command trailer went dark, trapping the only complete evidence inside its local drive. At the same moment, a generator battery burst into flames beneath the hospital loading bay. The fire suppression pumps did not start. They were premature infants on backup power 2 floors above us. No court order, board vote, or business headline mattered anymore. We split into teams. Gus and the factory crew attacked the fire with manual foam lines. Celine led hospital staff through the service corridors because she knew the generator layout. Iris coordinated the Skylarks from the rain, sending conversion kits to every unit we could reach. I entered the command trailer to recover the drive. Marcus was still inside. He held the drive over the open casing of a burning controller. "One step closer and this disappears," he said. The reporters saw Celine's order. They saw a frightened heiress losing control. When the storm ends, Damon buys Ward Dynamics and explains the rest. "People could die." Marcus laughed. "People always say that as if corporations have never calculated the acceptable number." He dropped the drive. A skylark crashed through the trailer's side window. Its folding arm caught the drive before it reached the flames. Ben's voice came through the drone speaker. "Flying Toolbox 1, expensive criminal, 0. Marcus lunged through the machine. I tackled him into the control desk. He was stronger than he looked, but he had never spent 12-hour shifts moving industrial motors with Gus. I held him down until hospital security arrived. Outside, Heiress completed the first controller conversion herself. The connection she soldered held. Power returned to the infant ward. Across Harborside, our Skylarks delivered kits through wind and rain. Local mechanics followed live instructions from Ember Works. Every repair generator became a relay point for the next neighborhood. By sunrise, the city had lost property, roads, and half a bridge. It had not lost the hospital. The master log survived. So did the final seconds of audio from the command trailer. Marcus Dane was arrested before breakfast. Damon Vale resigned from the board that afternoon, but his shell company still held Ward Dynamics' largest secured debt. He had built one final defense. The company was forced into bankruptcy. Hundreds of workers blamed Celine. Thousands of shareholders blamed Marcus. The news channels blamed everyone because anger kept viewers watching. Heiress and I returned to Ember Works and slept for 14 hours on opposite sides of the same office couch. When I woke, her head was on my shoulder, and the copper bird was pressed between our hands. "Your left wing is structurally absurd," I whispered. Without opening her eyes, she answered, "You are still not allowed to fix it." 3 weeks later, the bankruptcy court announced the auction of Ward Dynamics. Damon's shell company planned to buy the entire business, close Riverside, and sell the patents abroad. Because it controlled the debt, everyone assumed it would win. Heiress studied the auction documents for 2 nights. "The final lot is poisoned," she said. "The buyer inherits environmental claims, supplier lawsuits, and a guarantee tied to Marcus's private contracts. Then we do not buy the company." She looked at me. "The factory workers expect us to bid. We buy what they need." The bankruptcy list separated Ward Dynamics into 7 lots. Damon expected buyers to chase the famous patents first, then abandon the factory when the poisoned obligations appeared. We did the opposite. Through the employee trust, Ember Works acquired the repair licenses, the training center, and the inventory no one else wanted. Local suppliers exchanged part of their unpaid bills for future orders. Celine surrendered her remaining family voting rights to the worker trust. It was the first thing she gave without asking what she would receive in return. That left Lot 7, Riverside, the operating name, and the liabilities attached to both. The auction hall filled with reporters. Workers waited outside in the rain. Celine found the hidden guarantee 10 minutes before the final bid. It had been attached to an old land agreement under her father's signature. That was why she caught my sleeve and told me not to raise the card. She was not protecting her inheritance anymore. She was trying to protect me. The auctioneer called for bids. Damon's shell company offered $20 million. I offered 12. The room erupted in confused whispers. The auctioneer reminded me that the current bid was 20. "My bid is not for Lot 7 as written," I said. "It is a qualified rescue bid under the city continuity order." Damon's representative stood up. "There is no continuity order." The doors opened again. The mayor entered with the hospital director, the flood commissioner, and attorneys representing the employee trust. The city had issued the order that morning. Because Ward Dynamics' operating licenses controlled essential emergency equipment, the court could separate those licenses from fraudulent liabilities and favor a buyer that preserved local service. Our $12 million did not buy Marcus's shell contracts. It bought Riverside, the operating name, and a legal obligation to keep the workers employed. For us, that obligation was the reason to bid. For Damon, it made the company worthless. His representative reached for his phone. Heiress placed the copper bird on the table and raised her card beside mine. "Ember Works and the Ward Employee Trust confirm the bid," she said. Celine's tears finally fell. The auctioneer looked for a higher offer. Damon's shell company could have bid again, but doing so would preserve the factory it wanted to close and expose it to the city's investigation. The representative slowly lowered his phone. The hammer came down. Sold. Outside, hundreds of workers heard the word through the speakers. The sound that followed shook the windows. The reporters rushed toward Heiress, assuming the rose knife had added another company to her empire. She stepped away from the microphones and pointed at me. "You are congratulating the wrong person," she said. "The Employee Trust has selected Nolan Cross as chief executive of the new Ward Ember Corporation." 14 months after security escorted me out, I returned to Riverside through the front gate. No guards stopped me. Gus had taped a handwritten sign beneath the company logo. "Nothing useful is disposable." Ben placed a new security badge in my hand. My title read CEO, but beneath it he had added Chief Repairman in smaller letters.
"The printer made a mistake," he said.
Of course it did. Celine waited inside the launch hall where she had fired me. Her blue hair was shorter now. She had sold her apartment and most of her personal shares to fund compensation for the technicians Marcus dismissed. "The board asked whether I wanted a role in the new company," she said. "What did you tell them?" "That wanting something does not make me ready for it." She handed me the engagement ring she had once left beside my badge. I kept thinking an apology should restore what I broke. It can't. So this is not a request. I closed her fingers around the ring. "Keep it until it becomes an ordinary piece of metal. Will you ever forgive me?" "I already have. Forgiveness is not the same as returning." She nodded through her tears. For the first time, Celine left without asking me to follow. The court appointed her to assist the worker restitution program. She began with no private office, no executive title, and no one required to trust her. It was not a dramatic punishment or an easy redemption. It was work. I understood that better than anyone. Reopening Riverside took 6 months. We removed the Atlas banners and converted the failed launch hall into a public safety lab. Any apprentice could stop a test without asking permission, and every stop order had to be reviewed before production resumed. The first person to use that authority was Ben. He delayed a demonstration because one motor sounded wrong. It turned out to be a loose bolt. The delay cost us 12 minutes. I gave him a promotion. Heiress regained control of Vale Capital after the investigation removed Damon's allies. She refused to move back into the glass tower until the board adopted the same employee protections used at Ember Works. They called her unreasonable. Then they voted yes. By the end of the year, Skylarks operated in 9 cities. The ugly folding drones became famous because they kept working after prettier machines failed. At the Harborside Business Awards, Heiress received the CEO of the Year trophy. Her pink hair was loose over one shoulder, and the trophy looked far too shiny in her hands. During her speech, she thanked the factory workers, the hospital staff, and every person who had refused to accept that efficiency meant abandonment. Then she looked directly at me. "One engineer taught me that a machine can be rebuilt," she said. "He also taught me that trust cannot be ordered, purchased, or restored with a press release. It has to be built before anyone applauds." The entire hall turned toward me. I pretended to check the emergency exits. After the ceremony, Heiress took me to a charity auction held in the renovated launch hall. The final item was hidden beneath a glass cover. When the cloth lifted, I saw the copper bird. "You stole it again," I said. "Executive relocation." The auctioneer explained that the little bird had become the symbol of the Riverside Rescue. Bidding would fund technical scholarships for factory apprentices. Heiress raised her card. I lowered it. "Don't," I whispered. She stared at me. "That line sounds familiar. Some things should not be sold." I opened the glass cover and lifted the copper bird. Hidden between its crooked wings was a ring made from polished metal taken from the first Skylark. For once, Heiress Vale had no answer prepared. I knelt in the same hall where my old life had ended. "You gave me a contract with safety authority, worker shares, and no promise that either of us would win," I said. "I have one clause to add." Her eyes filled with tears. "No exit date." Heiress laughed and covered her mouth. Behind us, Gus shouted that silence was legally not an acceptance. "Yes," Heiress said, "before someone from legal ruins this." The workers cheered louder than they had at the bankruptcy auction. I slipped the ring onto her finger and returned the copper bird to its stand. The scholarship auction continued, but the bird was replaced by a signed promise from Ward Ember to fund every winning bid twice over. The crooked little thing stayed with us. Months later, it sat between our desks in the Riverside factory. Heiress still claimed its left wing was structurally absurd. I still refused to fix it. Every time a new apprentice asked why, we gave the same answer. The bird was never valuable because it was perfect. It was valuable because, on the day powerful people chose a machine over a person, someone chose differently. And that choice rebuilt everything.